Oh, hey, welcome. Hey guys, it's D from the Omnic Post again. So, this week we got the most crazy news in months. Apparently, Blizzard is working on Overwatch. Apparently, Blizzard is working on Overwatch 2. But where is all this coming from? What has happened to lead us to this point where Blizzard starts working on Overwatch 2? Overwatch just turned 3 years old. We're still in the anniversary event as we speak. But in the period between the previous anniversary event and this anniversary event, we've seen very few updates. We've had our heroes, we've had our events, but these events have somewhat always been the same, except maybe for archives. And on top of that, we have not seen that much of Jeff. We only had one developer update a few weeks ago, but before that, it had been months before we saw Daddy Jeff appear on YouTube and explaining us what he was up to. Dino Flask is not a happy man, I can tell you that. But on the other hand, while we have not seen that many of these updates, the team is bigger than ever. But what are they all doing? What is that team working on right now? So two of the biggest features that we as a community have been asking for in these last few months are, first off, the role queue. The role queue is basically a system where you pick a certain role before starting to play, and the game will make sure that you end up in a 2-2-2 comp, so you have it balanced. The other feature that you guys, including myself, have been asking for, have been really vocal about, is more lore. We want the story, please. Now, we really want to know what happens in that humongous world. We set up all these little parts on the maps with the heroes and these origin stories. You feel there's something really big happening there, but they only show you these little things. But we are kind of getting frustrated. One of the solutions has always been story mode. That's the thing we all want. We want the part in that game that tells us all these stories, that brings together all these different scenarios that we have seen throughout the events and kind of makes it a thing that helps us understand how this world works, what happened to Anna, Reinhardt, and all the other characters. But see, that's where it gets difficult. During a residency stream, which is basically Blizzard inviting streamers, not me, they can basically play the game in this weird looking big ass studio while asking questions to people that are on the staff. They can be developers, they can be artists, but sometimes it is Jeff himself that comes down from the ivory tower. And one of the questions that was asked during one of these latest residency streams was, story mode, is this going to happen? And Jeff said that he knew that it was a popular demand, that we wanted it, that we craved it, and that they think it's a really good idea, that they want to do it, but... And then I was like, oh, here we go. He said the but word. Dynamite. It would be like building a totally new game if we did that. But then he added a second but. But never mind. He said, we enjoy making games. We like the challenge of putting together a new product, a new title. And he kind of smiled. But that confirmed it for me at least, that they were working on story mode, that they had something in mind, that there was something happening behind these walls that would eventually get us the story mode that you and me need. Turns out that like making another game was more than just a play of words, of a way of phrasing stuff, and kind of a hint towards what they were doing. Because this week, we got the really big news. Jason Schreier wrote an article. Who is Jason Schreier? He's the author of this book This book is Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. The triumphant and turbulent story behind how video games are made. It basically tells the story of different video games that we all love, the process they went through, what happened behind the screens. Games that are in here are The Witcher, Destiny, Shovel Knight, Dragon Age, even Diablo is in here. There's a lot of games, and he likes doing research on what is happening behind the screens. And he wrote an article in Kotaku, and that article revealed that sources, probably within Blizzard, confirmed that they recently canned a StarCraft-themed shooter. Now, StarCraft has always been an RTS. They have done several attempts to make different types of games with that IP, and they all failed. And apparently this one failed too. But it sounded promising though. It was a game based in the StarCraft universe, but it was built on the Overwatch engine. And it set off the Marines versus the Zerg. It could have been really awesome. The team that was working on that StarCraft shooter was all put on different projects. 2 projects, to be more precise. One being Diablo 4, that we already knew was in development from whatever happened at BlizzCon last year. But the second one, and that was the big surprise, was Overwatch 2. That was the first time that we got this somewhat of a inside source thing that talked about an Overwatch 2. Schreier's article also stated that this Overwatch 2 will have a large PvE element, and that several Blizzard employees kind of compared it to Left 4 Dead. It took me quite some time to get back up onto my chair after seeing that announcement, but once I was behind my PC, I posted about it on the Omnic post, and it turns out that our audience is somewhat divided about all this. So just before the weekend, I started a poll on the Omnic post, asking our followers if they were up for an Overwatch 2. About 64% of you said, oh yeah, while 34% were not that happy with the choice. So I checked my messages, and apparently there's a lot of people that think that this PvE element should be added to the existing game. As a DLC, as a new mode, whatever. They don't want to pay for an extra game. They don't feel there's an added value in making this a separate game. And that's where I have a different opinion, and that's why I'm making this video. Because I work in the gaming industry during the day myself, and I have kind of an idea how it all works. And I want to just give you guys my opinion. Let me repeat that, it's my opinion, it's not the truth, but it's the reason why I think that it's a good idea to make this a separate game. But first I want to add something. I think a bigger part of this issue is that they mention it in the article as Overwatch 2. The next game will in no way be a successor to the Overwatch that we're playing right now. The Overwatch that we are playing right now will still exist and will still be supported. It is important for the Overwatch League, and the whole PvP element will persist next to that other game. They won't even end up calling it Overwatch 2. It will get a totally different name, that I'm sure of. Right, but why is this a good idea? If they make this PvE element of that game that we know right now as Overwatch a separate game, they can make 2 different roadmaps. Now, what is this roadmap? A roadmap is basically a plan. They sit down and they decide which features will be added to the game in the coming months. These could be heroes, could be maps, it could be new modes, it could be skins, anything needs to be planned so they can put the resources on it. Right now, I think this roadmap is kind of, well, broken, because they are currently working on that other title while trying to support the Overwatch that we know, and that's the reason why we haven't gotten the big updates. That's the reason why they're not changing the game modes that are included in the events. That's why we haven't seen Jeff that much on YouTube explaining what they're up to. It's basically like they have 2 trains, but they're riding on the same track, and they're getting in each other's way right now. And if they had made it into one game, I agree, you would only have 1 train. But that train would be so long, and it would be so heavy, that things would go really, really slow. And things would just get stuck. Because that whole PvE thing that we have in our heads is humongous. And it will have a big impact on that roadmap. On top of that, it would make balancing of the heroes, of the maps and all the modes, it would make it so difficult. Games like World of Warcraft, which is another Blizzard title, have been wrestling with this issue for many years. World of Warcraft has a PvE focused part and a PvP focused part, where you play with that same character. And you want your players to feel like it's one big game, that their characters are valuable in both parts of this experience. And for a game like Overwatch, it would be even more difficult. We already had issues where they do small tweaks for players on Grandmaster level, but on Bronze level, it's just one big ass. So not only would it be slowing down things, it would just break the game. And not only when it comes to balancing, when you have a project that big, every time you add something small, there's so many dependencies on both the gameplay and the technical level, that you run the risk of having bugs, issues, things just popping up. But with these separate roadmaps, it can make both games the best they can be. It can make sure that the original Overwatch that we're playing right now has that strong focus on PvP, and that they can add new features that are focused on the PvP, because right now they want to do stuff for us that's more PvE. They want to add the story. It kind of gets in the way of all the rest, and that's why a lot of people are complaining about how bad comp is right now and all that stuff. And on the other hand, you would have a really polished and beautiful PvE experience. And yes, you would have to switch, and yes, you would have to buy both games. But to be honest, it's a company. It makes sense that they ask money for a product that they're bringing out. It's not because we feel it is tied into something else that we already bought that we don't need to pay for it. And all that money that we pay for it will eventually help Blizzard making those teams bigger and making sure that we get the products that we deserve. And trust me, once we actually see what they are making, we'll understand why they made it a separate game. It will make sense, because right now we have this image in our head of these scenarios that we've seen in the Archives event, and we kind of extrapolate on that and we think that it will look like this. They want to make it something unique. They want to make it something special, something different from the game that we have right now, but that allows them to tell the story, the lore that we are asking for. They are the people that get paid for it. They are the smart guys. They will figure it out and they will give us what we need. And that day that it is announced, we all say, oh, snap, here's my $50. Make it! Because we need to realize, even if they announce it on BlizzCon this year, we'll still have to wait at least a year before we can actually play it. So let's not get too excited. Me and Hilda are probably going to BlizzCon this year, and if anything drops, you guys will be the first to know. Alright, that's it for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see all our future videos, just use that big red button down there and subscribe. And click that little bell icon next to it so you get a notification every time we upload a video. If you want the latest updates on Overwatch, make sure to follow the Omnic post on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. And you can find me on Atomics TV on all those same platforms. I'll add the links to the description. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, bye bye.